Hello everybody, I'm KC, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About, and a happy...
Insert holiday choice here.
...to you. I love the holidays. I celebrate Christmas, and I love everything about it. I love the decorations, I love the Christmas-themed food, I love the spirit of giving and generosity, I love the mass commercialism, I love that we celebrate it way too early, and, as you've learned over the past year and a half, I love entertainment. And come this time of year, there is no shortage of movies, TV specials, and even special episodes of TV shows that celebrate this time of year in all sorts of different ways. Now, I could just do a top 12 list of my favorite overall Christmas specials, but I covered that a couple years ago on my blog, and for the most part, it looks a lot like other people's lists when asked what their favorite Christmas specials are. This year, I wanted to do something special. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of Christmas specials, and because the classics remain classics, a lot of these specials get lost in the shuffle. So today, I'm going to put some of these specials back in the spotlight of low-level internet recognition and talk about my top 12 underrated Christmas specials. But first, we gotta lay down some ground rules. 1. No movies, even if they're TV movies. If it's over an hour long, it doesn't qualify for the list. 2. No versions of A Christmas Carol, because that's a different list. And what exactly constitutes underrated? Basically, it just means specials I don't hear people mention that often, or even at all, but ones I still think are really good and worth more attention than they get. Plain and simple. Now, with all that said, let's count down my top 12 underrated Christmas specials. But why top 12? Well, I could say because it's Christmas, but there's just so many good ones I couldn't narrow it down to 10. Let's unwrap this list with...
Christmas is starting now.
Number 12.
Christmas is starting now.
Hoops and Yo-Yo Ruin Christmas. Yeah, we're starting right off with a pretty obscure one. This special focuses around the popular Hallmark greeting card characters, Hoops and Yo-Yo, who, along with their friend Piddles, accidentally hitched a ride on Santa's sleigh and wind up traveling back in time to when Santa was just Kris Kringle. And they may have just ruined his chance to become Santa. This works surprisingly well. If you're familiar with Hoops and Yo-Yo, you may think that their enthusiastic, sugar-high humor might get old over the course of 20 minutes, but this special really stays focused and tells a very sweet story in the time they have. The humor is very much in the spirit of the cards, but it knows how to slow down for the more sentimental moments. It also helps that the voice actors for Hoops and Yo-Yo reprise their roles, and their chemistry still has the same funny charm to it. The story does its job quite well, and the theme keeps in the spirit of the holiday, doing your best to make someone else happy selflessly. And the time travel logic is actually pretty solid, at least by cartoon pseudoscience standards. I couldn't find any holes in it. Even if the songs aren't particularly memorable, and the animation, well, it does get the job done and does look like these three leaped off the e-cards, is nothing phenomenal. Everything else really makes up for that. This special could have been annoying or convoluted, but it's pretty funny, very sweet, and well thought out overall. They did release it on DVD, so if you can get a copy, you should definitely give it a watch.
Christmas is starting now.
Number 11.
Right. Christmas is starting now.
The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Christmas at the Tipton. Hear me out here. I realize that this is a weird choice since Disney Channel sitcoms are seen as the bottom of the barrel of Disney for most. And even as someone who grew up with a lot of these, I'd be lying if I said the nostalgia goggles are getting a little less effective as time goes on. But one that holds up surprisingly well, and what I consider one of the best Disney sitcoms out there, is The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It's still legitimately funny, both in writing and performances. While most sitcoms have more than one plot going on, this episode managed to juggle 3, or maybe 4 plots, rather well. From Cody trying to get his parents back together, to Maddie trying to get London to buy her an extravagant gift, to Mr. Mosby trying to manage the hotel as a blizzard causes problem after problem. Like I said, and I know I'm going to sound crazy to some of you, the comedy is really good. This episode in particular still makes me laugh, mostly because they did get talented cast members, especially Arwen the Maintenance Man, played by the very underrated Brian Stepanek. Though giving the adults just as much screen time as the kids is something that always made this show great. And the plots all come together as everyone tries to help a couple who were expecting a baby on Christmas Eve, but there wasn't room for them in the hotel. Yeah, the resolution's a bit cheesy, but it's a Christmas episode. I can forgive that. And I do like that none of the characters get exactly what they wanted, but they found a new perspective and were able to appreciate what they had. That's a pretty mature message for a Christmas episode on the Disney Channel. Even the Phineas and Ferb one, everyone got what they wanted. If you're one of those people who hates Disney Channel sitcoms, I understand. But all I can say here is, give this one a chance. It's a nice story with some great laughs, and even if it's a show you didn't really want, that doesn't mean there isn't good to be found in it.
Christmas is starting now. That's
Number
right.
10.
Christmas is starting now.
Perfect Strangers, A Christmas Story. Now, I'm willing to bet most of you have never heard of the show. It's kind of an obscure sitcom from the 80s, but it had a pretty successful run, and it's got a great Christmas episode. The show focuses around Larry and his foreign cousin Balky. When a blizzard prevents them from getting to Larry's hometown for Christmas, Balky tries everything in his power to give Larry a great Christmas. But Larry's just not feeling it. This one makes the list for being probably the funniest Christmas special I've seen. Obviously that's not going to apply to everyone, but I laugh out loud every time I see this. Mostly from the traditions they make up from Balky's homeland, and his interpretations of American traditions are hilarious. The lead actors, Marklyn Baker and Bronson Pincott, continue to have the marvelous chemistry they had through the rest of the series, and that not only shines through during the comedic moments, but the heartfelt ones as well. Once Balky does get Larry to enjoy their Christmas together, it's a very touching moment, and it sends the message home excellently. As long as you can spend Christmas with someone who cares about you, it can still be a merry one, no matter how unconventional it may be. While only the first 2 seasons of the show are on DVD, thankfully this is in the set. And if you want to experience Christmas in a different way, but still with the same core meanings shining through, this is an episode worth tracking down.
Christmas is starting now. That's
Number 9.
right. Christmas is starting now.
Yes, Virginia. I was struggling with whether or not to include this one, but since I'm sure there are people like me who weren't familiar with the story behind Yes, Virginia until they saw the special, I figured it was okay. And really, this is a story that should be shared. Virginia is a girl who loves Christmas and loves Santa, but a bully at school makes fun of her for still believing in Santa. So Virginia tries her best to find proof that he exists. So she decides to write a letter to the New York Sun, a prominent newspaper at the time, and asks if there really is a Santa Claus. There's a lot this special does right. For one, it really captures that feeling of questioning Santa for the first time. Most of us have been through this at some point, and for a kid, it's a tough thing to go through, and the special doesn't shy away from that. But it doesn't say believing in Santa isn't important. The special has this fun little segment where Virginia goes through all of the different interpretations of Santa all over the world. It's very fascinating and shows how wide the story of Santa reaches. There's also the sidewalk Santa who tells Virginia that he's just doing what he thinks Santa would by helping a charity, which then leads to Virginia helping him out later, which then leads to the guy convincing the editor of The Sun to respond to Virginia's letter. I'm pretty sure none of that is historically accurate, but it doesn't matter. It helps emphasize why people still remember that letter to this day. In fact, the special ends with a reading of the entire response, word for word. It's a beautiful response, and much like Santa, this letter embodies a state of mind, and an important one. I mean, think about it. An 8-year-old girl writes a letter to a no longer published newspaper over 100 years ago, and we still preserve it to this day. What does that say? That the smallest gesture of kindness and hope can change the world. That is something magical, and what better time to spread a message like that than Christmas? This would rank higher on the list since I do think it's a very wonderful and important story, but again, I don't know how underrated this really is, which is why it's so low. But if, like me, you're unaware of the story, the special is currently available on Hulu, and I highly suggest giving it a watch.
Christmas is starting now. That's
Number 8.
right. Christmas is starting now.
Third Rock from the Sun, Jolly Old Saint Dick. Oh man, now this is a show I don't get to talk about much. Sure, Third Rock from the Sun's premise of aliens coming to Earth to study humanity is nothing new, but the way they handle the premise is always what made it stand out. In this episode, the Solomons are very excited to celebrate their first Christmas. From Dick going all out at work, to Sally and Harry getting Christmas jobs at the mall, to Tommy trying to find the perfect gift for his very obnoxious girlfriend. But after seeing the stress the holidays can cause in some people and having some of their own celebrations go awry, they start to lose the holiday spirit. You can probably see where this is going, but it's actually really well done. Again, the outsider-looking-in perspective on Christmas is nothing new, but the way they handle an idea like this is really what made the show work. Dick and the rest of the family tend to put humanity on a pedestal, but we are incredibly flawed. The stress and discourse caused by the holidays really rubs off on them, and it's easy to see why. With that said, it's still packed with laughs, and the resolution does feel sweet and genuine. If you're willing to look past the crowded malls and the high expectations, there are people who do really love Christmas, and that spirit can still shine through. To show just how much this resolution meant, the gift that turned Dick's attitude around, he uses for the rest of the series. That is attention to detail I always appreciate. Check it out for yourself and see what it's like to see Christmas through new eyes.
Christmas is starting now. That's
Number
right.
7.
Christmas is starting now.
Billy and Mandy Save Christmas. I'll be honest, I don't know how underrated this one is. I mean, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is still very popular and was one of the best animated shows of the early 2000s, and Cartoon Network or Boomerang do still air this every year, but no one seems to talk about it. This definitely makes the list as one of the weirdest Christmas specials I've seen. It's not as insane as, say, Invader Zim's Christmas special, but it's still pretty out there. But what else do you expect from this show? What's so weird about it? Well, to prove to Mandy that Santa exists, Grim transports them all to the North Pole to meet the big man himself. But when they get there, Mrs. Claus tells them that Santa's been turned into a vampire.
I'll swallow your soul!
Told ya. Like I said, this is not your typical Christmas special. It's bizarre, kinda scary at times, and has some jokes that you don't fully understand until you revisit it a few years after the fact.
He always did tire out quickly.
But not all of it is scary. This show was a mix of zany and creepy, and this special was no exception. Malcolm McDowell, of all people, guest stars in this episode as a...
All my windows are handcrafted by local artisans. They're all objet d'art.
foppish vampire, and he is a real scene stealer. And at the end, even if the special does play with expectations and satirizes these kind of save Christmas stories, it doesn't lose sight of having a message and a positive resolution. The twist of who did this to Santa is amazing, and actually a pretty clever take on a certain holiday relationship, but I won't give it away here. It has better weight to it if you don't know it beforehand. And even if you aren't familiar with the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, if you want something unconventional to check out this year, this is a special worth taking a bite out of.
Christmas is starting now.
Number 6.
Right. Christmas is starting now.
It's a SpongeBob Christmas. The original SpongeBob Christmas special, Christmas Who, is a classic. While not as talked about as some of the other Nicktoon holiday specials, it had a charming concept that was filled with fun, laughs, and sentimentality the show has long since lost. Or that's what I thought. Now, don't get me wrong, even if it took me longer than most to give up on SpongeBob, I'm in the majority when I say that SpongeBob has gone downhill and should have ended a long time ago. So, when this Christmas episode was announced, I wasn't exactly excited, but I still gave it a shot. And then, I don't know, something happens. If you can make it past the fact that this came out long past SpongeBob's prime, this is a very fun and charming special. Plankton wants to turn everyone into jerks, so he'll be the only one on the nice list. And SpongeBob inadvertently helps him with this, but he does save the day later on, so I can forgive that. Really, I'm more amazed that he managed to get everyone in town to enjoy fruitcake. Ugh, it's like a brick of all the rejected fruit passed down on Halloween coming back for revenge. The thing you'll notice right away is that this episode was done in stop motion, and Bikini Bottom does transfer to the style surprisingly well. The characters are all recognizable, and they were even able to capture the cartoon emotions of the characters in comedy. Patchy and Potty even got animated. The plot and stakes are solid, almost everyone is in character and turns in great performances, the songs are pretty catchy, especially Don't Be a Jerk, and guess what? It even manages to be funny! I know, I'm just as surprised as you are! I could give some examples, like this one.
There hasn't been any food or water, food for over 20 minutes.
But I wouldn't want to spoil too much. Even if it may not be as innocent or heartfelt as Christmas Who, and does still have some of the shortcomings of modern SpongeBob, like Patrick, it's really a breath of fresh air. If you want something more detailed, you should definitely check out the Mysterious Mr. Enters review. But I can easily say that this episode is definitely worth your time this holiday season.
Christmas is starting now.
Number 5.
Right. Christmas is starting now.
Ziggy's Gift. Ever since the Charlie Brown Christmas special, other comic characters have gotten their chance to have their own Christmas special. My personal favorite of these being Ziggy's Gift. Ziggy gets a job at the street corner Santa, but the agency that hired him isn't exactly legit. So for the entire special, he's unknowingly being pursued by a cop and a creepy pickpocket. This one is probably the simplest special on the list, but it's very well made. The animation is expressive, and it does look like these characters came right from the comic strip. And while I never understood why Ziggy doesn't talk in this, the animation gets across his personality wonderfully. And Ziggy's personality drives the story and the message. Ziggy may have been hired by a crooked agency, but he doesn't know that. He just wanders around town doing good things for others, including pulling money out of a magical pot, which is why the pickpocket is following him in the first place. This confused me the first time I saw it, but when the pickpocket can't pull the money out of the pot, but later can pull toys out of nowhere from a bag for a bunch of kids, I think I got it. This magic was a metaphor to convey the spirit of the special, being generous with the best of intentions. Another very Christmassy message that I can get behind. There's not much more to say because, again, it's a very simple and slower-paced Christmas special, but it's very charming and well told without shoving its message in your face. You just sort of feel it, and I can respect that. Speaking of giving with the best of intentions,
Christmas is starting now. That's
Number 4.
right. Christmas is starting now.
Twilight Zone, The Night of the Meek. While most of the stories in the Twilight Zone tend to be cautionary tales or commentary on the human condition, this is a much simpler tale, but just as good. This story is about a mall Santa, played brilliantly by Art Carney, feeling so discouraged about how he believes Christmas has lost its meaning, it causes him to get fired. As he walks the streets, he discovers a bag filled with presents. The rest of the episode is him giving out gifts that are exactly what the recipient wants, running into a few skeptics along the way. Probably the best thing about this episode is the main character, Henry Corwin. They establish very early on that he's not just some bum who lost faith in Christmas because of the position he's in. He looks out a window at some kids who really think he's Santa, wishing he could give them a little happiness on this special time of year. I really like that. Even when he's a drunk out of a job, he still thinks of the kids. So when the powers of the Twilight Zone give him the ability to do so, he's just so happy about it. He even gives presents to the people who think he stole the stuff. Art Carney gives a great performance that just makes you feel so happy that he's able to spread this joy, especially by the end of the episode. He's so good in this, I wonder if he did any other holiday specials. Never mind. It may not be as creepy or thought-provoking as some of the other episodes, but it accomplished what it set out to do, and it was a very strong way to show the true spirit of Christmas.
Christmas is starting now. That's
Number
right. 3. Christmas is starting now.
Community, Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas. Yet again, we got the comedy focus special with the feels thrown in at the end. We seeing a theme here? Before Gravity Falls came along, Community was my favorite show, and it's still a great runner-up. They made a lot of Christmas specials, but this is by far my favorite, because it goes all out. This episode was also done in stop motion, but unlike It's a SpongeBob Christmas, there's actually a reason for it. Abed wakes up one morning to realize that the entire world is stop motion animated, but he's the only one who sees this. So to figure out what's wrong with him, the study group and their psych teacher, played by John Oliver, take him through Winter Wonderland to help Abed find the meaning of Christmas. Because that's what protagonists in Christmas specials do. The stop motion is really good from what I can tell, especially considering they animated this in under 4 months. That kind of commitment is pretty admirable, but it's the writing that sells this one. This episode does come with the delightful, satirical meta-humor that made the show so great, and it's hilarious and clever.
This is Carroll Canyon. Instead of oxygen, the plants produce Christmas songs.
Will it cost a lot to walk through here?
No, it's public domain.
But what I always loved about Community, and particularly this episode, is how it uses common pop culture tropes and homages for character exploration and development. They don't do these kind of things just for the sake of doing them. Again, there is a reason why Abed is seeing all of this and why he's going on this journey, but I don't dare give it away here, because it's a complete left turn and it hits pretty hard. But it has a wonderful and very sweet resolution that has a different look on how people view the holidays, but still sweet. I cannot recommend this enough. If you've never seen Community before, this is as good an introduction as any, and it's one of the best episodes of the show. Give it a try and see if you can find what Christmas means to you.
Christmas is starting now.
Number 2.
Right. Christmas is starting now.
Teacher's Pet, a dog for all seasons. Now, just by saying the name of this show, I either dropped a long-forgotten nostalgia bomb on you, or you have no idea what I'm talking about. Teacher's Pet was a short-lived yet critically acclaimed Disney cartoon from the early 2000s. It was a charming little show that got a lot of things right, and a wonderful example of that is the Christmas episode. When Mrs. Helperman realizes that a lot of her students celebrate different holidays, she tries to change the school's Christmas play to include all of their traditions, including Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and
The Tibetan Festival of Yak Butter Sculptures!
Excuse me for a minute. I'm sure this isn't a real thing, but I might as well double check. I mean, come on, if they wanted to make an episode about diversity, they could have at least come up with a holiday that actually, oh my god, it really is. The Tibetan Butter Lantern Festival occurs on the 15th day of the first Tibetan month. The festival is fueled with activities including Buddha dance, puppet shows, and butter sculpture exhibitions staged by various monasteries. In the daytime, people will steam into monasteries to pray. When night falls, they will stroll along places like Barkor Street to maze at yak butter sculptures. Representing the exquisite and sumptuous character of the Tibetan Buddhism art, yak butter sculptures have become a totem of the Tibetans. Huh. Who knew? While this is going on, Spock goes through a bit of an existential dilemma, yeah, he does that a lot, at the fact that dogs don't seem to have holiday traditions. This one is great for a few reasons. For one, how they handle the premise. Mrs. Helperman is usually a very positive character, always looking on the bright side of things. But in this situation, she tries to please everyone and it becomes too much. And they handle the struggles both Mrs. Helperman and Spot are facing around what the holidays really mean very well. In a world that strives for political correctness and representation, sometimes it's easy to forget how much we all have in common, especially with how we view the holidays, no matter what we celebrate. This has a very sweet way of showing the importance of any holiday, wrapped up with probably the best song the show ever produced. We even have some fun with Spot's resolution, with a cameo by John Mahoney as a...
Just a magical dog who pops up out of nowhere to help other dogs with their troubles.
Yeah, what he said. This scene is dripping with self-awareness at the magical journey to learn the meaning of Christmas trope, and it's really funny. In the very PC times we live in right now, I'm surprised this one doesn't get more attention. It's probably the best way I've seen a TV show tackle the confusion, yet overall love that's associated with this time of year. Teacher's Pet did have another Christmas special, but good luck finding it. It was tough enough for me to find this one. But if you can somehow dig up this episode, I highly recommend it. And if you want to know what else this show had to offer, don't worry. We'll talk about Teacher's Pet at a later date.
Oh yeah.
And my number one favorite underrated Christmas special is... Olive the Other Reindeer. I'm not gonna lie, my love for this special partially inspired this list. Have you ever had that one Christmas special that you grew up with and adored, but no one else has heard of it? For me, that's what this was. Olive is a dog who's not very good at being one, but when she hears that one of Santa's reindeer was injured and that he may just have to make do with all of the other reindeer, her pet Flea convinces her that he's talking about her. So she heads to the North Pole to save Christmas. By bus. From Anytown, USA. Okay. Probably the thing that still makes the special stand out to some is just how refreshingly original it is. Yeah, it was based on a book, but that doesn't take away from the story itself. In fact, the book is really short and rather basic. So a lot of things in the special are exclusive to the special. One of my favorite additions is the postman as the villain. The fact that a mailman wants to ruin Christmas is too funny, and it makes so much sense. I mean, have you ever been to a post office the week before Christmas? It's a madhouse. Combined with a great performance by Dan Castellaneta, even though this character doesn't get a name, he is a great villain. In fact, the voice cast overall is one of the stronger elements of the special. I mean, Drew Barrymore is in the starring role. That's already an impressive pedigree, but it doesn't even stop there. You know who else is in this? REM lead singer Michael Stipe. Yeah, even gets a song and everything. Oh yeah, the songs. The songs are top notch and definitely deserve more attention. I was always upset they never released a soundtrack for this special. My personal favorite being Merry Christmas After All, performed by Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, who, if you have a good ear, you may recognize from their performance in the Phineas and Ferb Christmas special, in the song I've been playing during the countdown. Even if the animation may not be that impressive, especially by today's standards, it has an endearing style. Like with Hoops and Yo-Yo and Ziggy, Olive and the others really do look like they leaped off the pages of the book. And I'm just gonna say it, I absolutely adore Olive. She's the cutest thing ever, Drew Barrymore plays her wonderfully, and her love for the holidays and can-do attitude is infectious. This special has a real pay-it-forward attitude. People are kind and helpful to Olive because Olive helped them or gave them perspective. In the wrong hands, this could come off as preachy, but it really doesn't. There is a great way to describe Olive's attitude and the attitude people generally should have. And Olive summed it up right here.
It's a two-way street. Santa doesn't just give you stuff because you ask. You have to deserve it. I'm trying to deserve the good things I have, and the good things I hope I will have in the future.
That is one of the best lines I have ever heard in a Christmas special. It's why I love Olive so much, and it reminded me of my attitude towards the holidays as a kid and even now. I know the holidays can be stressful. I know that if something goes wrong, even the slightest thing, it can make you lose your enthusiasm for the season. It's such an easy trap to fall into, and most of the people in this special do, because Santa may not be able to fly. A lot of the specials we've talked about had someone restore someone else's spirit in Christmas through a kind or selfless act, something that truly embodies what this time of year is about. Because sometimes, that's all it takes. And to me, Olive is the best example of that. I even have this really well-made, hard-to-find Olive plush. That's how much I love her. I could go on, but this is getting really long already. I'll review this in its entirety sometime if you guys want. All I can say is, if you haven't seen it, track it down and give it a watch. You may find the Christmas spirit all over again. So those are my top 12 underrated Christmas specials. What are some of your favorite holiday specials, Christmas or otherwise, that you think deserve more love? Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, have a happy holiday, whatever that may mean for you, and do your best to spread the joy and generosity that this time of year represents. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.